Um, so Create and Connect Circles really came out of my own studio process. So I'm an artist and an educator, and I've been in Asheville, North Carolina for the last 16 years. And my school, Roots and Wings, has been in collaboration with children in our community and schools of Buncombe County for the last number of years. With COVID, we had to sort of take a little break, but we helped create kits and such during the last year and a half. I've done some residencies with the students in the different learning centers there too through the North Carolina Arts Council. So it's, I just really appreciate the relationship I already have with your organization and the opportunity to talk to people that are this work at the broader scale. It's an amazing and really important, it's a really important work that you guys are all doing. So thank you. And although I'm an educator and an artist and a parent and a wife, I always come back to this idea of relationship. It was interesting that that was one of Ray's points this morning. But I feel like whatever we're doing, we're building relationships. And as an artist, I love to create my own work. As a teacher, obviously, I love to inspire people to be finding their creative voice. But I also really love just doing my own work with other people. So Create and Connect Circles and my Create and Connect process has kind of, it's just sort of the way I'm naming that work. And when it comes to, especially this last year that we have experienced, this idea of trying to reconnect, re-engage, rebuild, even just with ourselves and our own small knit communities of our own families or extended family, when it comes to trying to do that with our students, it's tough. I mean, it's a big job. And we're all sort of in Zoom, I don't know, having trauma from Zoom and, you know, relearning how to be together. And I've found, for me, words are not my strongest suit, but imagery and color and visual language is. So it's sort of how I talk. It's how I say things. And now I'm sort of offering it up as a way to have conversations with others and allow others to have conversations with each other within their communities and their circles, using images and color instead of always just defaulting to words. This can be done with any age, which is something that I think is really important, and you just scale it as you go and adjust it as you go. But the idea, I'll show you just as an example, it's using, I just use really simple materials. So magazines of any kind, things that come in the mail, even just scrap paper. And I really had intended to give everyone a list of all this stuff. Like that was my thought, is that we would do this. So I'm not sure that's possible, that we could all go gather some things, but I'm just gonna show you what's involved and we can decide. So magazines, and it could just be something that came in the mail that day. It doesn't have to be a lot. Some kind of color, so color pencils or crayons or markers, really whatever you have that could create color. If you love to paint and you have paint, you could use paint. Some kind of adhering, so like a glue stick or tape, and scissors. We gave a set of these books to the community schools program here, just composition books that are like 30 cents when it's full time, because it can kind of, it creates a practice. So you have this series of basically of thoughts that are in image form that the kids will have as reflections, as processing, as conversations, but in visual language. So the idea is to choose a concept or a word or something you guys want to be focusing on, or maybe you let the kids choose. I was going to do the word resilience with you, as that to me is something that we're all working on a lot right now, and we've all been working on for the last year and years before that. But choosing one thing, or it could also be like a poem or a book or, you know, any kind of text or music or lyrics or something. And you're using that as this jumping off point. So you begin by offering this connection point. And again, depending on who you're working with, you could have the students pick that word, and that automatically builds a bridge. And then we just search for images. So you spend time sort of searching, and that's really, it seems really simple, but it's really therapeutic. And it's something that whenever I do it with adults, their first comment is like, "Oh, I haven't done this since I was in kindergarten." You know, that's something I used to do a long time ago. And then we just sort of drop it. But it's such a great way to access this sort of part of us that we don't say out loud, and the emotional things that are happening and the thoughts that are going through your head, but you can't necessarily put words to it. So you cut out imagery and then you glue it down and then you add color. And the color is the emotion. It's the feeling. What does it feel like? I don't know if you've ever asked kids this, but if you say, well, what color do you feel right now? And usually something it's on the tip of their tongue and they'll say it. We don't think like that. We don't really say it out loud, but again, it's always present. And so the color layers over all the imagery as this emotion, and you have this image of this word or this piece of poetry or this lyric or this concept that you're trying to discuss that's really hard. And the more you do it as a practice, the more connection you're going to be building, the more engagement you're going to be building, because you're also doing it in a group. And it can be something you do one-on-one, but as the kids see each other doing this, it's just really fascinating and really powerful. So one thing that I do, well, I'm gonna let you guys ask questions first, like before I go on, because I know that was kind of a lot. Does anyone have any questions or like comments or confusion? No. Well, that's good. So what I typically do, I did this for the local affiliate here, is I did a training for all of their staff, basically. And I just walked them through this process. So I have a kit of materials that I would start you with. I have a curriculum of connection, which is essentially the steps I was just describing. They're just sort of written out with notes so that you don't have to remember it all. And the intention is the student support specialists or the site coordinators, it's something that it's like this tool, like you guys were all saying, you're looking for tools. What can I do to re-engage? What can I do to help support these kids and make connections, right? As we sort of are re-emerging together. And to me, this is a language that is just, it's really accessible. It just takes a few different tools, and it's something that can just keep going. It just builds on itself over time. And the goal, I really also liked how Ray was talking about sort of after high school, or at least the older ages. To me, they've just become the leaders of this. They end up being the ones who lead the circles with the younger kids. And that brings a whole nother level of what is possible. So I don't know if it's possible right now to do this with you, but I really wanted to. So does everyone have enough things they could just go gather if I gave you 5 minutes? Maybe, yes. I think it'd be really awesome to try it. And again, it's really just sort of bring what you have. If you have just whatever, we can make it work. But I'd love for you to try it first, because then you'll see.
So Ginger, if everybody could be back.
I'm not going to fight. See what they do.
Yeah, we'll just do 5 minutes and see if you guys want to go try to gather a couple of things. Come on, we can do it.
What are you going to do? We can learn to find something. You need to mute yourself.
I thought we would use the word resilience as our jumping off point. I'll write that in the chat. Thanks for being willing to try. One of the other things that I do, and this is something I did while we're waiting, I'll share with the local affiliate here through an arts council grant, was taking the same process but using chalk and chalk, which is sort of what's behind me, chalk pastel and color and imagery. And I created with the kids individually these portraits that were about as big as that piece behind me, collaborative portraits of them. So super abstract, but just using collage and color. And it was amazing. We had a whole exhibit. We framed them all. It was awesome. All right, I'm not sure how to know if everyone's back because we don't have a lot of screen showing, but ooh, a thumbs up. I don't know how you do that, but that's cool. Thanks, Susan. There's a lot about Zoom that I do not know, I will admit. Ooh, another thumbs up, yes. And if you don't have a piece of paper that's like plain, you can just use a piece of magazine. Like I sometimes will just tear a whole page out of a magazine and that can be your background start. It doesn't have to be a plain sheet of paper. Okay, do we want to start? Those of you who I can see, I'll go with your head nods. We might go too. Okay, so let's just take a minute and you're just going to sit in whatever comfortable position you want to sit and you close your eyes and you're going to think about that word resilience. Think about what images come to your mind. Think about what colors, what emotions. Okay. And for those of you who have a magazine or something that you can flip through, then you're going to take your magazine and you're not going to overthink this. You're just going to literally flip slowly through it, and whatever strikes you, don't judge why, whatever, you rip the whole page out of the magazine. So as I'm flipping through, thinking about that word and those colors, okay, here's something. I'm just going to rip the whole page. I'm not cutting it yet, and I'm going to put it aside. Okay. We're going to do this. We're just going to do this for 5 minutes. We're doing a speedy version. If you don't have magazines in front of you, maybe you think about what images come to your mind. If you'd like to draw them, you could draw them, or just make a list. I'm going to mute myself so I don't make See if you can find 3 or 4 images if you haven't already. That's sort of the idea. If we have more time, I would say maybe 8 to 10. We'll look for 1 more minute. Okay, so once you have your pile of images, that's sometimes the hardest part is the kids just want to start cutting, right? But it's really good to just tear it. And that's also really fun because we rarely get to like tear pages out of things. So tearing it out. Now, I want you to look at each of those pages and you're gonna sort of search for lines that you see. Instead of it all ending up like a rectangle, I really challenge everyone to not just have it be a rectangle or a circle. So like if I was this is a desert, I'm gonna sort of somehow cut around those dunes, right? So that it's more of an interesting shape than just this rectangle. Or if this was one of my images, I might try to maybe I'm just gonna cut the eyes, I'm not sure. But what strikes you about the page, what struck you in the beginning, and try to cut it out as precisely as you can. And this can go on for a long time, like we could take a long time to cut just because being precise might take longer, especially for kids, which is fine. So you just sort of adjust the time depending. So we'll take 5 minutes and then I'll check in, okay?
Can I ask, is it words, or can it be words and pictures, or just pictures?
That's a really good question. I don't ever say like, don't use words if you really feel drawn to it, but sort of the point is no words, right? So it's like trying to move beyond words and then we can talk about it in the end. But if you have a word that you really have to use, I have a hard time saying that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Okay, I know you might still have some more cutting to do, but I'll just go on to the next 7. We can kind of overlap a little bit. So once you have at least some of your images cut out, then I take whatever service I'm working on. So for me, it's that notebook or it's just a piece of paper. And I kind of lay out all the pieces on that paper and just kind of start talking, seeing how they're connected. Like what about them is making connections. And inevitably, there's always these threads that appear. And again, don't overthink it. Just sort of let yourself play with composing your collage. And remember that things don't always have to stay close together right in the middle of the page. Things can go to the outside. They can even hang off the edge. You can trim it later. Things can also overlap with each other. You don't have to just have all these separate images, because often there are connections to these images that you've cut out. You can cut slivers into things and kind of slide things under other things, right? So you just start composing your image. And remember, the whole for this one, the whole idea is this word resilience. So I just sort of keep, as I'm working, whatever it is we're listening to or creating from that word, we keep talking about it. And I usually compose before gluing. Like I sort of allow myself to sort of try multiple iterations. So you don't just go right to gluing. And then once you have it kind of where you think you want it, you can use a scrap sheet of paper, or again, like another magazine paper or something, even just open the magazine up and use it as a way to glue. So I'll take my image, put it face down, use my glue stick, put it on there, and then put it back on my paper. So you just kind of build up your collage. And if you have tape, you can use tape. And then the last step is, I usually call it magic. It's like, it's adding the color. So I'm just going to flip through a couple of these. So like, this is the color pencil that goes around, and it doesn't matter, again, like this is just notebook paper, but I try to really encourage this idea of like, what do you feel about that? Like, look at the piece, look at what you have. What emotions do you feel? And then what colors does that make you think of? And pull those colors. Don't worry about whether it not, whatever. It's just let yourself use the color to fill in around all of the imagery, or some of it. You don't have to cover the whole page. Sometimes it's super minimal. I don't really color a lot. So it's whatever you feel like. That's really the point. And again, well, we'll talk more about this kind of as a tool after we finish. You can also draw, like this one has little lines. You don't have to just color fields. Just kind of let yourself feel it. All right, those of you who are doing it, again, I'm not sure who all that is, but let me know how you're doing. If now's a good stopping point, if you want a little bit more time. And feel free to unmute and tell me. Luck is good. See a few more hands working. I'll do 2 more minutes, then we'll chat. Does anyone want to share what they created? Again, there's no pressure, but it could be fun for those that did do something. They could see what you got.
I can share.
Well, thanks, Michelle.
I only had Men's Health magazines, 2 of them. So my pickings were very slim, but I did, I don't know if you could see this. So I did this guy, you know, he's looking pretty worried with challenges and he has some support guys around him. And then I did a strong strength guy that has, you know, a lot of strength. And then this guy's just pushing forward, running forward. And just the colors, I had like dark, like rocks and things on the bottom. And then I just drew like a little rainbow and sunshine to see if he is so resilient that he will, you know, get to that sunny apart and keep fighting and moving forward. So that was mine. That I don't know.
Thank you. That's great. Thanks so much for
Sure.
sharing. I think sometimes I think it's really fun to be challenged by like a magazine like that where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna find anything. But at the same time, like you did, you know? Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone else
Someone else's turn.
Any other takers?
Well, I'll share mine.
Okay.
If so all I had was my Bon Appetit magazine. And part of that I didn't really want to cut up because I haven't looked through all the recipes, but I found a bowl of chili that was round, and for me the round bowl kind of symbolized keeping on. And I think the cooking has been something that really has helped increase my resilience. But I also found a stack of dirty dishes, which I thought was kind of a fun emblem of what life can sometimes be, because, you know, there are always dishes. There's always laundry, there's always dishes. And if you don't have the resilience to get through some of that, it's really difficult. And then I tried to play with some colors to bring out the colors that I like the best, which are blues and greens and yellows. And so it was fun. Thank you. I appreciate it. I did some cutting and pasting right before this because I'm putting together a German dictionary for myself from my calendar that I have every day. So it was just kind of funny when you said, you know, what we were doing, and I was thinking, oh wow, I was just doing that. So it was nice. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, thanks for giving it a try.
Yeah, these things are always good, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, so the idea, I mean, a lot of you guys were saying in the beginning, what are some tools and some things to do to help being a re-engagement coordinator or a student service support? To me, this is something that you can do right when the kids arrive. It's just like they grab their journal, they grab their book or whatever, and they reflect, and it's either you have a word for them or they help you create words for the next month. And maybe you do it once a week, maybe you do it every day. But I think you could probably see that like once you do it more than once, you develop this rhythm, and it really does become a way of saying things without having to say them, and a language that they can use to share some things that may be really hard for them to just come up to you and say with words. And I know that after a number of weeks, I think they're going to want to start putting together the list of what you're pulling from, you know, what you're reflecting on. And I also feel like it's valuable for a team, like for you guys and your team to do. We do it in our staff meetings, not all the time, but it's a tool that we use when we want to really try to process something or think about something. It just puts more out there on the table to then discuss. Even if you don't discuss it, just being able to see the images, you know, tells you a lot about what's going on inside of each of us. Does anyone else want to share? I don't want to cut anybody off. Yeah. Janice.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, still getting used to Zooming. Thank you. And listen, another thank you. I did this same thing, made a beautiful collage. What's that that board everybody does? What is it called?
Vision board.
Vision board.
Mm-hmm.
A group of us ladies did a vision board by opening up magazine articles to our immediate avail when we were meeting in person. And I did a wonderful vision board. It was so fun. You forget how fun it is to cut and paste. And it was great. So thank you for reminding me, because I have 5 students and I'm looking for creative ways right now to engage every week. And boom, this is going to be the one. Listen, resilience in my brain is courage and wisdom. I was using the People magazine. I just happened to have one. And I have Lala Anderson, Lala Anthony, actress, mogul. She is the picture of resiliency. She did go through a divorce. She's got a beautiful young son she's raising. I'm glad you said okay with words, because I had wonderful words that captured things. You've got the beautiful Lala Anthony. Then you have a quote, not by her, but just a quote that was outstanding. It says, "You can get better. You can change your life." You've got another quote down here by Katy Perry, who says, "Best life." She says, "You really grow into who you are the longer you get to live." I thought that was profound. Under here in the big yellow, I found love and compassion that also came from Katy Perry, who just gave birth to a beautiful baby. And then parenting styles. She says, "I'm the 3 F's, fun, firm, but fair." And that sort of sounds like me, by the way, too, with my daughter. Real talk. And the final quote, "When you're still." This came from our anchor from the Today Show, who recovered from polyp surgery, which I did not know. She says, "When you're still, you're able to hear the little whispers inside of you. It just puts everything in perspective." It's the African-American female, real sweet. I didn't know she had had polyp surgery. So she was taking some time out recovering. This is what she came up with. "I did not have space to do a color, but if I had, I would have used pink and potentially red. Red is my color I love, bottom line." So thank you for reminding me about this, and I'm going to use this for sure.
Yes, good stuff. I'm so glad you enjoyed that. That's
Yes.
awesome. That's awesome. Does anybody else want to share or chat or ask a question?
I can.
Okay. Hi.
Oh, well, I didn't get a chance to find a magazine, but I took the option of drawing something.
Awesome.
I'm not an artist though, but I drew a mussel, I drew a rubber band and a cup. And I'm a re-engagement coordinator of Rocky Mount, North Carolina. And the mussel symbolizes strength. In order to have resilience, you have to be strong in many areas, especially your mental ability of being a re-engagement coordinator. You have to be able to be stretched. Somebody said something earlier about being stretched. And a rubber band symbolizes something that needs to be stretched. That means you may be doing a lot of things that you're not accustomed of in order to reach the kids and their families in the community to get them back re-engaged. And I also drew a picture of a cup because a cup is used by a lot of people. You got styrofoam cups, you got paper cups, you got glass cups, you know what I mean? So all three of those cups are used by a lot of different people, and cups undergo a lot of use, you know what I mean? And sometimes you can throw them in the trash. Sometimes you gotta wash them. Sometimes they are filled up to the brim and can't take any more volume, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So you have to be resilient in order to be a cup, if you know what I mean.
I love it.
So I used a cup, I drew a mussel, and I drew a rubber band.
That's incredible. I love it. That's awesome. Thanks so much for sharing.
I can go.
Okay.
So I was in the same boat as he was. I do not own a single magazine. So I paint, and I did that. It's still wet. I don't know if you guys can see it.
Oh my goodness.
So resiliency to me isn't always thinking of the rainbows and the sunshine that come from success. It happens to have a lot of depth and a lot of darkness to it because you have to face a lot of things to get over it. So it's got moonlight, and if I would have finished, I would have had a single flower coming out the front, but we cut short on time. So there's a lake, there's mountains that are snow-capped, there's a storm in the back, So the clouds represent, that shadowing that we often have to face when we're overcoming things. The moonlight is the pathway that we sometimes take unknowing. We've got a lot of things that come across our paths and a lot of people that tend to come and help us, and we don't always see the light. And sometimes even in the darkness, it shimmers and it reflects off the water, which I think is a key factor of resiliency, is that we have to reflect upon the things that are challenging. And sometimes the students have a hard time doing that. And we have a hard time being open and honest with the things that are reflecting. And then in the background, there was some grass and, some tumbleweeds growing. And then there were some bushes that were still frostbitten, but they still had green. They still had life. So that was mine.
Wow, thank you, Amber. That's incredible too. I feel like every time I do a workshop with anybody, it doesn't matter what age, I leave with like 50 other ways of seeing the same thing we were talking about. And it just blows my mind. It just is incredible. So my dream for this whole project is that everyone in community and schools has this as a tool and can use it with the students and or yourselves, your teams, like whenever you need it, I really feel like it's something that is meant to be out there in the world and being utilized, even though it seems so simple. I think honestly right now, I've been feeling the need to just, I feel like everything's sort of been stripped down and then we're sort of rebuilding back up. And I think it's okay to sort of say simple, we don't need a whole lot of things to help us get back to being in connection with each other, but a few tools that can lead us into practice, I think is really beneficial. And kids are amazing. They teach us so much, and I think that they will put their own spin on this too, and that is exciting to me. I think some kids will really take it and run with it. Yeah. Well, does anyone have any questions or comments or anything?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Quick question. Hey, Ginger, I have a book that I'm going to be presenting to my Pretty Girls Wear Pearls program, and I want to help spur conversation around this book that will be read to them while they're there. Do I need to start pulling just various magazines all over the world, or how do I engage? And do I need to have like a plethora of like magazines on standby to do this if I start with a book? Can you use thoughts or just colors?
You could just use colored paper. You can just use colored pencils. You could use, I don't feel like you should feel limited because you might only have 5 magazines. That's fine. Sharing is important, right? So everyone just sort of takes a minute with the magazine, passes it on. We're all going to see different things. So there's 50 pages in a magazine. I might find 2 images that speak to me. You're going to find 3 different ones, more like, most likely. But don't be limited by what you don't have, because color, if it's paper or tools like writing tools, if it's one magazine, then tear the whole magazine up and have just all the pages on the floor, or share it. Yeah, that'll be a really great way to think about that book. Awesome. Yeah.
And I just want to add, Janice, I know you did mention that you like to do vision boards. I love vision boards as well. And it's a thrift store by my old house, but you can get them discounted. I think the thrift store I use have them sometimes 10 cents, 25 cents. So that's an idea just in case you want to go shopping for some magazines.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you guys were closer, I'd bring you some. I'm always good. Just for the school, people bring us magazines a lot and it's helpful. So I could bring you a little. Where are you guys located? Oh, you're muted, Janice.
High Point. I work in High Point.
High Point. Okay. Okay. All right. See if I'm around there. I might be coming with a box. Well, I really, I hope that you guys don't mind that it was a little bit like, wait a minute, we're going to try this thing, but thank you for being willing to do it that way. I really appreciate it. And I hope that even if you didn't have the materials, it gave you an idea of kind of what's behind it. And hopefully you have my contact information. I guess I could put it in the chat, or if it's on the website, I'm not sure. But feel free to get in touch with me anytime. It's in my name. My email is pretty simple. Oh, that went straight to someone else. I'm not good at this. Here we go. And I love thinking about things like thinking about how to think about something, like you just asked me, Janice. Like that's one of my favorite things to do. I feel like there's always a way to make something happen, and that you guys are doing so much amazing and important work. And I just again want to say thank you for that. And I hope to keep being involved and on lots of levels, hopefully even outside of Asheville here. Be nice to meet some of you guys in person someday.
Hopefully we'll be soon be back in person again. We're really looking strongly at an in-person conference next year. So that will be great. My board had a picture of two people giving each other a hug. That's a little bit of a resilience thing for me. So thank you so much for this, and please continue to ask questions of Ginger, but just to respect time, I've dropped in the chat the link for the evaluation. You can also find it on the website at the same place you signed up for this session. So if you miss it here, just be sure to go to the website and drop in an evaluation. I know that will help us with the conference and also help Ginger as well. And just a reminder, in a few minutes, I believe it starts at 4:20 to jump back on for the closing session. There will be prizes, so don't miss that. And we'll hear a little bit about tomorrow. We've got a full day tomorrow. We're looking forward to that. But thank you all so much for joining. And again, you're welcome to stay on a few more minutes if you have more questions for Ginger, but just wanted to be sure to get that little bit of information to you. And thank you, Ginger. It was great. I look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Thanks, me too, Phyllis. I really appreciate you being here to be our little facilitator.